10.02 to 10.25. Vice President Lester.
Through the President. Tonight's meeting, up until this point, the items that were received in the Friday book are the same items that we're voting on tonight. Up until this point, now we enter into the finance section, which includes items that have to do with documentation that many board members, if we look in the meeting notes of the August 30th meeting, asked for, that while I did have a chance 1.5 hours ago when I sat down and the meeting was open to open the book and see, in that time between August 30th and tonight, I did not get the answers to these very important questions about where is 21 million being spent. Now when I look at the details, which I only had literally 1 minute before the meeting started, and I wanted to be able to pay attention to our, you know, the people who were speaking, I noticed just off the top of my head, when I'm looking at an item like 10 point, the approval for the 21 million, where is that? 10.25. Okay, I've got 2 books I'm looking at here. First of all, I'd like to say that in the beginning of the month, right after the board meeting, when some of our board members said they do not ever want to receive information late again, we were assured we would not. We got our book Friday night, it was great. We had a caucus meeting Monday, we're still working out the kinks, you know, for that to run smoother. It's going to be perfect the next time. In the meantime, we not only got a new book tonight, we got, and I think it's wonderful for there to be better explanations. But we had no time to read them. So in the meantime, we're being asked to vote on this huge document that has things inserted into it. When it was requested, I asked for it in writing, but I was told, I was assured that everything would be coming in on that Friday, and everyone would receive the documents and we would not have to go through this yet again. When I look at the 21 million, and just tonight, I finally see a breakout of where it is. I see 1.5 million, which Ms. Simmons had mentioned back then, for garbage disposal, interlocal service agreement. It was mentioned this is the first time we've ever done this. So with something this large, did we go out to bid, did we do an RFP, or did we just give this $1.5 million? Not that I don't want to support the government of Jersey City, but you know, it's a huge amount of money. So did we do an RFP for that section?
No, we did not do an RFP for that section.
Thank you. The next thing I had to ask is reinstatement of various positions, $13.6 million. As of last month, and as of the caucus meeting, only 3 days ago, the questions were still being asked. What?
Before you, you're into the discussion, but before you go further, I recommend that we move these items, move them to vote, and then we have discussion on individual items as each one. So at this point, I'd like you to stop, and I recommend you stop. I recommend the board seek to move the items, and then if there are individual items for discussion, the first one is discussing it.
Thank you.
Okay, so going back to taking a motion to move 10.02 to 10.25. Ms. Mack? Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Adames? At this time, before the vote, are there any questions? This Vice President Lester, you can continue.
Okay. 10.25. Of course we want to accept $21 million, but how it's used is really important. There's another item in here that says reinstatement of various positions. As of Monday, and even as of tonight, I believe supposedly that there are still, how many positions that the president who asked for verification of the reinstatement still hasn't received yet? Are there 50?
Well, we're gonna talk about that too, because there's a different amount than it was at the last board meeting.
Right. Plus, in the documents earlier, we are accepting, in the numbers earlier, we're accepting an ARA grant for $13 million, that's item 7.10, and also $560,000 for Title I. Now, these were specifically from the President of the United States to help ward off layoffs, and yet I don't see that it's not doubled. I see the exact same numbers being used in another report. So I just want to make sure, is this, it's hard to really figure out where all these things are coming from. Plus wireless district-wide, we already are approving a wireless contract for earlier in the agenda for $350,000. So, to me, the explanation here is very late, and that's what I have to say about that.
Thank you, Vice President Lester. Ms. Seaborn?
To someone, are we only accepting the 21 million in the resolution of 10.25? The backup documentation, are we accepting that? I mean, when we vote for 10.25 to accept the money, are we married to the actual allocation? That is an explanation, but I mean, we have some movement. If we wanted to move some things differently, I mean, we are not saying this is categorically how we're going to spend the 21 million.
But yes, we are not married throughout the whole budget, the whole $600 million budget. We are always availed the process of transfers as different programs come up. The $21 million, the county and the Department of Education wanted to know our breakdown, if we would be using it all on this year's activities, or would we be reserving some of it for next year's budget. So what we would provide to the county office is our estimated use of what we was going to do with the money for this year. Some of the things are committed, as we explained at last board meeting when I handed out the information and questions were asked in regards to, we already brought back a lot of the employees, so that money is committed. The information, the extra money we needed for charter schools, that's already committed. So there's a number of things committed. However, all the things are not committed. I did send an email out early in the month asking for recommendations from all board members. I opened up, I did ask for a meeting if anybody wanted to call and meet with me to discuss any of their thoughts. I did not receive any feedback from anyone in particular to discuss any information regarding board items they wanted for consideration on this. I did explain to Mr. Waterman today that some of the monies can still be utilized differently if we put in for transfers and other things like that. So yes and no, we are committed to a lot of the dollars, but we are not married and have to do some of the things that are recommendations.
One other question, Mr. President, please. With the interagency agreement, am I not correct that last year the board members were very, very eager to hire Jersey City, spend money in Jersey City, and so we're really very committed to these interagency agreements, and that we were very happy to have the Jersey City Incinerator Authority do our grass cutting and all that. I mean, that was an active, that was something that was pursued actively by the board because we want to employ Jersey City, we want to keep our money here. So that's what that 1.5 million, they go around and cut our grass and...
Well, that's bigger than the grass. We did get to the history, as far as we can think back, we had never been charged for garbage in the, as a Board of Education. And never that we can look back that we've been charged for garbage. In June, we received a bill from the JCIA to all of a sudden now pay for garbage that was an unbudgeted number. The amount you see is just negotiations at this point. We have not settled on a number. And that being said, I have not gone out to bid or anything because they did, our lawyers are talking. I don't want to talk about the details, but our lawyers are talking and we have not settled on anything. Because of that, I have not gone out to bid because it's not clear as to what we're going to do.
Thank you, I forgot that.
Ms. Harrison, please.
No,
Okay, with
Yeah.
respect to 10.25, I know specifically with regard to the garbage disposal at the last board meeting, my understanding was because we had never been billed before, we're going to try to go out and negotiate it for a lower price. So we've begun those negotiations. My question is, to the extent we had not been billed before, and this $21 million is somewhat of a gift, what would we have done with that bill if this money had not come in to pay it?
Well, we did indicate what the time we got the bill and before we had any confirmation of 21 million that we would not have the money. We did let that, we did let the JCIA know that that was not a budgeted item, and at this point we do not have the money. At that time, we still was facing 311 layoffs, so we were standing firm on that position.
But further through the chair, but further to explain that to you, what would we have done if we had not received the 21 million? It would have to be a trade-off. In other words, we pay the city the use of our police. The new thing that happened a year ago was for the crossing guards. Everything that the city was picking up, we have a relationship. We spend X amount of dollars, and I don't have that right in front of me, but somewhere in the neighborhood of between $3 and $4 million for those services. So I told the mayor, and I'm the one that's negotiating it, and telling you that we can't do it. Now something has to give. Either Chief Comey has to give up some of it and get it out of his budget, because we can't pay $2.5 million to pick up the garbage. But I still don't want to be put in a situation where garbage is not being picked up, because that's increase of rodents and all kinds of other kinds of things in the city. So we're trying to make that work. They're forcing my hand, or forcing our hand, let me just say, put it that way, that if you don't do it, we're going to go to court. I just talked to the mayor 2 days ago, when he's telling me that he's going to work out something. So I told him, well, maybe by tomorrow, but no later than Monday, we have to come up with a plan. They're still picking up our garbage, but they're forcing our hand. So we would have traded off something else with the city, saying, look, well, we don't pay for the crossing guards, you pay for it. And we'll, one way or the other. So the 21 million just came in as a plus. So now at least we can throw something in the budget to say, at least we got to throw it in there. And then it's not, we're not married to it, but we got to have something dollars, because we know eventually that's something is going to happen. I don't know what that something is yet, but something's going to happen.
Doctor, let me just say, to the items that's not committed, we kept updated how negotiations are going with those things. And of course, those other monies that's in facilities, we could further discuss ongoing. Okay.
But you will be updated, because you have to be updated on those items.
All right. Ms. Mack?
I'm a little disturbed. I'm looking at the agenda online, and it's not the same items.
I'm sorry?
I'm looking at the agenda online on our Jersey City Public School System, and 10.25 is an addendum item, approval of acceptance of additional aid for fiscal year 2011-2012.
Yes. This is it. That's the 20 million.
Okay.
Additional aid. It's part of the breakdown, part of the allocation. Any other questions on 10.02 to 10.25? Before we go to vote, Ms. Harrison?
It's more general. We all agree and have agreed that we as board members should not be handed new resolutions the night of the meeting. How do we prevent this from happening?
I believe most of the information was handed. What we did in lieu of our caucus the other day, we added more support documentation to give more explanation. But for sure, you did have that information. I did send it via email to make sure you had it.
I'm sorry, the resolutions from 10.2 to 10.25?
Yes, that was available. That you did have that information from the caucus, and the information on the budget, I just changed one number between the caucus and now. I did email that backup information prior. It didn't change much from what I handed out in August. So you did have most of that information beforehand, and I was anticipating some kind of feedback from board members to review some other items from you. We are making a better effort to get you more details, as you mentioned, on the caucus. But we did not add any substantially different information. It was mostly just more detail to give you more information as to what each item was.
We had the information, but was the information, and I apologize, I was not at the caucus meeting, was it communicated that it would be on the agenda for tonight?
I had mentioned it, but I was still waiting to get some feedback.
Because
if you recall, at last board meeting, I mentioned we had to approve it because the deadline date was in October that the county wanted it. So I did, if you recall, mention it in August that we had to put it on the meeting, on the September meeting for approval.
And through the chairs, that's where the breakdown comes. The only thing that was supposed to really happen, and I called the president, I wanted to change the format of the book. I think I spoke to Marvin Adamus. Well, then I was going to put backup behind every resolution so there would be some answers there. That was the intent of this booklet. No changes whatsoever. But when there's conversation in caucus, I guess from now on I'm going to, whatever is on the book, that's what stays on the book. Any addendums will have to happen the next month or the following month. It has to be discussed in caucus, and it has to be in the book initially. And that will never happen again. I will promise you that. There's always been some reasons that there's an addendum, we got to put it in, it's due. Regardless of what those dates are, if they don't make it by the time that they're supposed to make it, they'll be cut off, and I'll make that happen.
Thank you.
Vice
Through the
President
chair,
Lester.
the other thing that we
One
need
second,
to...
ain't you acknowledge Vice President Lester had a question first? Maybe next.
So on Monday night, when we had our caucus meeting, the book did not include item 10.25. I actually had Monday night's book. I never, and I'd like this on the record, I never received this documentation. I did verbally hear on the 30th that you were saying there were certain categories it was going to be in, and the board did say that we wanted to have more conversation. If you had sent a memo saying you were holding a meeting, I'm so sorry if I missed it because it was of the utmost priority to me this month. I would like you to resend that so that I can receive it tomorrow morning and just resend it, forward it from the original sent document. And I know that this document was not, and the number itself, 10.25, was not in our book that we received Friday, and it was not in the update we received Monday. So I wasn't going to make a big deal about the fact that the Friday book, which was supposed to be the final, actually was a little different on Monday. I figure we're still trying to get, this caucus moving forward properly. But if you're going to say that there were absolutely no changes made, this is the biggest thing. And it seems to be the fulcrum point of so many of the items that many board members have asked about, the reinstatement of the staff, what exactly were the positions that were let go, things that have been asked since the day the budget was proposed way back before the summer. So I'm happy to hear that we're not married to this as a backup document, but I would like to know from you how much of the $21 million has already been spent, so parts that we actually are married to, and how much has not yet been spent. Could you break those out?
The answer to it is that I'll have her give you that, what dollars are locked in, because clearly charter schools, whatever that course is, that's locked in. Hasn't been spent yet, but I mean, it's there to be spent when they call for it. The garbage is going to be locked in at one point. I don't know if it's going to be $1 or $2 million, but it's going to be locked in. Those things are going to be locked in. And to bring it back, the dollars that are left, I'll have Ms. Simmons make sure that you get that breakdown. It's a tentative breakdown, but I'll give you the assurance of those that are already spent on one side and those that are not spent. Is that what you're asking for? Melissa, did you hear that? So those that are totally locked in are charter schools, garbage, and what's the other? Staffing? Those things are locked in,
Yes.
those other dollars that are not spent, and the president and the vice president they should have some more conversation from the board on how those dollars will be spent, okay? Can you do that tomorrow?
Thank you, Dr. X. Mr. Valentine?
Yeah, the one thing I wanted to say is that we need to start moving our committees earlier because it's humanly impossible to have a caucus on a Monday, a policy and legal on a Tuesday, and to have a board meeting on a Thursday. All we're doing is we're setting up this administration when their prime responsibility is to our children. You know, if we move our caucus maybe a week or two, maybe we could get some of these answers, but having a caucus on a Monday and another meeting on a Tuesday, I think it's humanly impossible, and we're setting up our own administration and our children.
Thank you. Vice President.
Thank you, Mr. Valentin. However, in the past, the finance meeting and the personnel meetings were held on Wednesday nights, which was where the catch-all for every single finance item and voting item, which either made it or didn't make it to the committees, happened. So the idea of the caucus was, instead of having more than half of the items be so early because the committee meetings were happening 2 or 3 weeks before the board meeting, that every committee chair had an opportunity closer to the board meeting to have their committee and all the items that we would then have to vote expenditures on happen and not have things show up. There really were only 2 or 3 items that were added here, so although I made a big deal about this one because it's such a big number, I do believe that we are moving forward as far as less and less items showing up at the last minute, and I do believe that the move toward trying to group the board meetings together is good. I agree with you, having a committee meeting after the caucus meeting makes it a little difficult. But again, I'm hoping it's a work in progress that all the committee chairs can, just can really have input of what they think the most important way to move forward is.
Thank you. Are there any other questions on 10.02 to 10.25 before we go to vote? Thank you. Senator's roll call, please.
Mr. Adamas?
No on 10.14, 10.15, 10.25. Yes on everything else.
Mr. Connors?
No on 10.22, yes on everything else, and I'm going to need guidance from the board president. If 10.22 gets defeated...
I'm sorry, can you just... I didn't hear what you said.
I'm going to need a little guidance on this matter. If 10.22 gets defeated, I'd like to make a motion to put up another firm's name to consider the same contract, the same parameters of it, in doing so at tonight's meeting instead of next month's meeting.
I'm sorry, Mr. Pat is speaking and Paul is speaking. I'm so sorry. I'm going to actually repeat that again, but this time we actually require
Sure.
to hear.
10.22, if it goes down as a nay vote, I would like to make a motion to put up another firm's name with the same parameters of the contract say. So I don't know if I make the motion now or...
Mr. Connors, we can remove something, can table something, but we can't do it that way.
Sorry?
We can't do that. We can vote up or down, but we can't do that. Thank you, then. Now we're waiting on your vote.
I voted.
Can you do it again, please?
Yes.
I have yes and a no on 1022.
Correct.
Okay. Mr. DeRosa?
No on 1022 and yes on everything else.
Ms. Arnold?
No on 1014 and 1015 because there was documentation requested on those two items that was not received unless it was in this book tonight, until tonight. Yes and everything else.
I'm sorry, could you speak a little louder, please? Could you
It wasn't near me. I said I vote no on 1014 and 1015 because it was not documentation has been requested on that was not received unless there is something in the new book tonight, some backup documentation, which I have not had an opportunity to review, and yes and everything else.
Ms. Mack?
I find myself in, I didn't realize that some of these items were controversial, and I have a question. I don't know how I can ask the question. Is there a way I can ask the question at this point in time?
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you. It's on 1014. I actually spoke to the board president today, and I think I just came in late, and perhaps there was an answer. I heard at one of the committee meetings that this contract for 1014 had expired June 30th, but we actually have had work done under it on our FEMA grant. And I had asked the question if I knew that we still were waiting for some information on it, but is it possible, could somebody explain that to me? Like, I don't want this person not to get their money for working on a FEMA grant.
Yes, they did continue to help us on a couple of items, and we on the FEMA and with the hurricane, and we said that if this doesn't pass, we would pay on just the invoices that he helped us with.
All right, because I don't want us to lose the FEMA grant money because we, have started questions on the vendor. Do you understand my concern?
Wait, I'm sorry, Ms. Mack. Please continue. I have another question from Ms. Simmons.
That really was it. I remember I had asked that question this morning because I had heard that this vendor had prepared all our documentations to the federal government on our, just when we had the hurricane, which was in August. So I wanted to make sure that if we were going to hold it over and not vote on it tonight, that at least the person is considered our employee so that we wouldn't risk not getting our money.
Okay.
So have you realized that?
You said, what was your answer to that again? That they helped us?
Right. The actual contract is to help us on a number of things for the year. But as you know, with the hurricane, we had a couple of things. So he's been helping us. The firm Brown & Brown has been helping us negotiate the insurance for a lot of the losses we took on from the hurricane. So we agreed that he would just give us quotes to help us with that for now.
Okay, and then my question would be, Ms. Arnold is still waiting for information on it. You're still waiting for information, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. Then I know what I'm doing. Thank you so much. So I'm going to
Yes, there's 14, there's backup in the book for 14, and the backup for the backup for 15 was emailed last night. It was about 3 different documents of information on iPads.
Okay, Ms. Mack is voting.
Okay, so I'm going to vote yes on everything except 1014, which I'm going to abstain on, and I'll vote no on the iPads until I get time to look through the documentation, since everybody knew I wasn't coming until 6 o'clock, so I had no opportunity to see the backup on that. Okay, so I'm yes on everything except 1014, which I'm going to abstain on the recommendation of Ms. Harrison Arnold until she gets the information. And 1015, I'll vote no on until I have an opportunity to review it. And yes on all others.
Ms. Sabron?
On 10:15 at that very long caucus meeting, it seems to me that there was lots and lots of discussion about 10:15. And for several members, I thought I heard them say, oh, now I understand. And we talked about it almost ad nauseum, about 10:15, about the Saturday program where the teachers went under the LEAP program, you know, and then how we were trying to turnkey some of that technology for our classrooms, and that most of these items in this item 10:15 ultimately we're going to benefit our children in the classroom. So I guess that's my comment on that. I'm just puzzled by the people who were present, how they don't remember that very lengthy conversation. So that's it. No on 1022 and yes on everything else.
Mr. Valentin?
No on 1022, yes on everything else.
Ms. Lester, Vice President Lester, I'm sorry.
I'd like to vote no on 10.02. Yes on 10.03 to 10.07. No on 10.08. Yes on 10.09 through 10.13. No on 10.14. I want to vote no on 10.15. You know, we invest a lot, smart boards, laptops, you know, like every responsible homeowner and adult, sometimes we just can't have the shiniest, newest toys. If we've already invested, I still would like to see, you know, some of the what I heard about why we need the iPads is we'll be able to access online things. Well, as far as I knew, that's what the smart boards were doing in every classroom. And I do see that we're investing heavily in wireless service, not only at 10.16, but, and that's for 300,000, but also as over $1 million in the $21 million. So no for 10.15. I'd like to abstain from 10.16 because I would like to make sure that we're not duplicating service. Yes, 10.17 through 10.24, and no 10.25.
Mr. Waterman, President Waterman?
I'm going to say yes to everything but 10.14, 10.15, and 10.25.
I didn't hear also.
Yes to everything but 10.14, 10.15, and 10.25. Please tell me to vote. Give it your vote.
10.14 does not move, so that's
I'm sorry?
so 10.14 was voted no. 10.15 is voted no. All other motions pass.